Hey everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Speak Easy English, where we break down real English for real life. I'm Ella.
And I'm Maximum. Today's topic is a super interesting one: how English sounds different all around the world. That's right. We're talking about British English, American English, Australian English, and more.
Yep, even though it's the same language, the way it's spoken can sound totally different depending on where you are. The vocabulary, the accent, even the tone and rhythm, all of it can change.
And if you're learning English, that can be a little confusing, right? You might be watching a movie from the US one day, listening to a British podcast the next, and chatting with someone from New Zealand on social media the next. And you're like, wait, is this still English?
Exactly. But the good news is, once you understand the basic differences, you'll start picking up patterns and learning to adjust easily. So, let's kick things off. Max, should we start with British versus American English?
For sure. So, let's talk vocabulary first. One of the most well-known differences is in everyday words. Like, the American word apartment becomes flat in British English.
And truck in the US is lorry in the UK. Also, vacation becomes holiday. It's the same idea, but different words.
Then there's pronunciation. Americans tend to pronounce the R sound strongly, like in car or hard. But in many British accents, that R is much softer or even silent, so car might sound more like car.
Australian English, on the other hand, sounds a bit like British English, but with a twist. It has its own rhythm, and they love shortening words. Afternoon becomes arvo, and breakfast turns into brekkie.
Right? And don't forget Canadian English, which is mostly similar to American English but sometimes includes British spelling, like colour with a U. Plus, they say a at the end of a sentence for confirmation, like it's cold today, a.
And in South Africa or India, English is often mixed with local languages and culture, which gives it a totally unique sound and flow. In India, for example, you might hear phrases like, do the needful, or kindly revert, which are grammatically correct, but a bit old-fashioned in Western English.
And Singapore English, or Singlish, is another interesting version. It mixes English with Chinese dialects, Malay, and Tamil. You might hear phrases like, can la, or no need, la, which express tone and mood more than actual grammar.
So as you can see, English isn't just one voice, it's a global chorus. The great part is, if you're exposed to different kinds of English, you become a stronger, more flexible listener and speaker.
Totally agree. Don't be afraid of the differences, embrace them. It's all part of becoming truly fluent in a global language.
Let's dive deeper into how intonation and word stress change across accents.
Great point. Intonation plays a big role, and it's something many learners don't notice at first. For example, in American English, the tone often rises at the end of questions and can be quite expressive. It's also used in casual speech to show excitement or emphasis, like, really, or no way.
British English, especially the received pronunciation, RP, accent, tends to be a bit flatter and more formal in tone. But then if you go to places like Liverpool or Scotland, the intonation patterns become much more musical and varied.
And Australian English often has this rising intonation at the end of statements, even when it's not a question. So something like, I went to the store, might sound like they're unsure, even if they are just telling you what they did.
Exactly. And that's why sometimes learners might misunderstand the emotion behind the sentence. So it helps to really listen to the tone, not just the words, when you're trying to understand.
Another cool thing is the rhythm of speech. American English tends to be stress-timed, meaning that certain syllables are stressed more, and the rest get squished in between. That's why it sounds kind of bouncy or even fast.
In contrast, syllable-timed languages, like French or Spanish, tend to give equal weight to every syllable. So when someone from that background learns English, they might sound a bit robotic at first until they get used to the stress patterns.
And that's totally normal. It takes time to get used to the natural flow. Listening to music, watching shows from different countries, and mimicking the rhythm can really help.
One tip I always share is shadowing. Just play a short video clip, pause after each sentence, and try to copy it exactly, including the accent and rhythm. Don't worry about sounding silly, it's all part of the process.
And honestly, exposure is everything. If you only listen to one accent, like American English, other accents might feel confusing at first. But the more you expose yourself to all types of English, the easier it gets to understand anyone, anywhere.
Yes. It's like training your ears to become accent detectives. You start to notice small things, how water becomes watu in British English, and water in American English. Little clues that help you understand faster.
Also, watching YouTubers or TikTok creators from different countries is a fun way to learn naturally. You pick up not only the language but also the cultural vibe and humor that come with it.
Exactly. And don't forget, there's no right accent in English. What matters most is being understood and understanding others. Whether you speak with a Filipino, Nigerian, or Irish accent, it's all English, and it's all valid.
Couldn't agree more. Now let's talk about some strategies to help you feel more confident when you're listening to or speaking with someone who has a very different accent from yours.
Right, so the first strategy is, don't panic. A lot of learners freeze up when they hear an unfamiliar accent, especially if it's fast. But just like any new skill, your brain can adjust with practice. Start by telling yourself it's okay not to catch every single word.
Exactly. And if you miss something, don't pretend to understand. It's completely fine to ask for repetition or clarification. You can say, "Sorry, could you repeat that?" Or, "I'm not familiar with that word, what does it mean?" That shows you're engaged, not weak.
Another helpful trick is to focus on key words. The nouns and verbs usually carry the main message. Even if you don't catch every filler word or preposition, you can still get the overall meaning.
Also, subtitles can be your best friend when you're getting started. Watch shows or videos with English subtitles so your ears and eyes can connect the sounds to the words. Over time, you can turn them off and test your listening.
Yes. And mix up your listening sources. Don't just stick to American movies. Watch British dramas, Australian reality shows, Indian TED Talks, Irish YouTubers. Every new voice adds a layer to your listening ability.
And for speaking, try recording yourself. Choose a line from a show or podcast, record yourself repeating it, and then compare. It's not about copying perfectly, but about becoming aware of your own speech rhythm and improving it.
I love that. And one final tip. Don't be afraid to keep your own accent. It's part of your identity. The goal is clarity, not perfection. You can speak English well and still sound like you.
Totally. English belongs to everyone now, it's a global language. And your accent? That just means you speak more than one language. How cool is that?
Super cool. And speaking of cool, next we'll dive into some fun slang and idioms from around the world that'll help you connect more naturally in conversations.
Ooh, yes. Like in the UK, someone might say, "I'm knackered," and that just means they are super tired. Totally different from American English where you'd say, "I'm exhausted," or "I'm wiped out."
Exactly. And in Australia, if someone says, "Let's grab a cuppa," they're just inviting you for a cup of tea. But in the US, that might sound strange unless you know the context.
Oh, and in the US, someone might say, "That's my jam," when talking about a song they love. But if you said that in another part of the world, someone might think you're literally talking about fruit jam.
It really shows how much culture plays a role in language. That's why it's so important to not just learn vocabulary and grammar, but also explore the cultural meanings behind how people speak.
And idioms. Don't get me started. If someone says, it's raining cats and dogs, they are not being literal, it just means it's raining heavily. Same with break a leg for good luck, or bite the bullet when you have to do something unpleasant.
Yes. And sometimes learners avoid idioms because they are confusing, but learning even just a few can help you sound more natural, and also help you understand native speakers better.
So here's a tip: start collecting idioms or slang that you hear in shows, movies, or on social media. Write them down, look them up, and try using them in your own sentences.
Better yet, use them when you chat with English speakers online. Even if you're just commenting on a video, or replying in a group, it's great practice.
That's how you build real-world English skills, through curiosity, exposure, and trying things out even if you're not 100% sure yet. It's all part of the journey.
Absolutely. And one more thing to add: pronunciation can vary a lot too. For example, the word schedule is pronounced schedule in American English, but schedule in British English. Same word, different sounds.
Yes. And then there's vocabulary differences that can really trip you up. Like, if you're in the UK and someone says boot, they're talking about the trunk of a car, not footwear.
Or if someone says biscuit in the UK, they mean what Americans would call a cookie. But in the US, a biscuit is more like a soft bread roll. So imagine the confusion if you ask for a biscuit and get something totally different.
Same goes for spelling. Words like colour and favourite, spelled with a U in British English, colour and favourite. That can be a little confusing if you're reading or writing for different audiences.
It's good to pick one version to stick with when you're learning, like British or American English, but also be familiar with the others so you're not surprised when you come across them.
Right, and there's no right or wrong version. English is spoken all around the world, and every region adds its own flavour. That's part of what makes it such a dynamic and interesting language.
So the goal isn't to sound exactly like someone from a specific country, unless that's your personal target, but to be flexible enough to understand and communicate with people from all over.
Exactly. Language is about connection. The more you understand the different ways English is used globally, the more confident and adaptable you'll become in any conversation.
And here's something cool. Sometimes English words change meaning slightly depending on the country. Like in Australia, if someone says thongs, they mean flip-flops, not what Americans are thinking.
Haha, yeah, that could definitely cause an awkward moment if you don't know the local meaning. Or in South Africa, they say robot for a traffic light. So if someone tells you to turn left at the robot, they are not talking about a machine.
Exactly. These kinds of differences are fun, but they also show how important it is to understand context. Listening to how locals speak, watching TV shows or YouTube from different countries, it really helps.
And even accents play a role in communication. Some people find the Scottish accent harder to understand at first, or maybe the southern US accent. But with exposure and practice, your ears adjust.
Definitely. It's all about training your ear and staying curious. If you come across a new phrase or pronunciation, ask about it, look it up, or just note it down. Every time you do, you're expanding your English world.
Plus, it's super impressive when learners can recognize and understand different varieties of English. It shows not just language skill but cultural awareness too.
And it builds your confidence. If you're used to hearing multiple accents and vocab styles, you won't freeze up when someone speaks differently than what you're used to. You'll be ready to roll with it.
Totally. And let's not forget spelling differences too. Like, color, in American English becomes color in British English. Organize with a Z versus organize with an S. It can be confusing at first, but once you know why the differences exist, it becomes easier to remember.
Yeah, and pronunciation too. Take the word schedule. Americans say schedule, while Brits often say schedule. Neither is wrong, just different. So if you're learning English, Don't stress about which is more correct. Just pick one and be consistent, or adjust depending on where you are.
That's a great tip. And you know what helps? Watching shows or listening to podcasts from each region. For example, The Crown for British English, or Stranger Things for American English, or something like Bluey for Australian English. It's fun and educational.
I love that. It's like turning your downtime into language learning time. Plus, hearing natural conversation helps you pick up the rhythm, expressions, and even slang you won't find in textbooks.
Exactly. And it also prepares you for real-life conversations. You won't get thrown off if someone suddenly says, "Fancy a cuppa," or "wanna hang out," depending on where they are from.
Right? It keeps you flexible. And honestly, once you get used to these variations, it actually makes English more interesting. It's like seeing different flavors of the same language.
Absolutely. And sometimes, the same word can even mean different things depending on the region. Like, in American English, if you say pants, you're talking about trousers. But in British English, pants means underwear.
Ha, yeah. Imagine how awkward that could be if you didn't know. Like, "I like your pants," could mean something totally different depending on where you are.
Exactly. And then there's rubber. In the UK, it means eraser. But in the US, it usually means something very different. Let's just say, it's not for erasing pencil marks.
Yup, context really matters. That's why paying attention to how words are used in conversation is so important, not just the dictionary definition. Learning through real-life examples or media helps you catch those differences.
It also helps build cultural awareness. Because language isn't just about words, it's about the people, the culture, the humor, and the habits behind the language.
Totally. Like how Aussies shorten everything, afternoon becomes arvo, breakfast is brekkie. It's casual and friendly, and that says something about their culture too.
Yeah, language reflects personality in a way. And as an English learner, you get to explore those personalities. Whether you're watching British dramas or American sitcoms or chatting with an Aussie on a forum, you're building that awareness.
Exactly. So don't be afraid of the differences. Embrace them. The more varieties you get exposed to, the more adaptable and fluent you'll become.
And it actually makes conversations more interesting, too. Once you start noticing these differences, you can join in more naturally. Like, if you're talking to a Canadian and they say, "toque," for a winter hat, you won't be confused, you'll get it and maybe even use the word yourself.
Totally. And sometimes, it becomes fun. You might start mixing in words from different versions of English without even realizing it. Like saying cheers to thank someone, even if you're not British.
Yeah, and people usually appreciate it when you make an effort to connect with their way of speaking. It shows that you're engaged and respectful of their culture.
And don't forget the accents. They are part of the charm. At first, understanding them can be hard. But the more you listen, whether it's Irish, Scottish, South African, or even regional American accents, the better your ear becomes.
Exactly. It trains your listening skills big time. And when you're exposed to different accents, you stop panicking when someone sounds different from what you're used to.
That's a big win. Because in the real world, especially online, or while traveling, you're gonna hear all kinds of English, not just textbook style, or standard accents.
And honestly, that's where the real learning happens, outside the classroom, when you engage with real people, real voices, and real differences.
Right? And the cool thing is, no matter which version of English you're hearing, the core message is usually the same. Once you get past the small differences, like biscuit in the UK versus cookie in the US, you start realizing that you're still having a smooth conversation.
It's like learning a dialect within the same language. And instead of seeing it as confusing, you can treat it like an upgrade. You're not just learning English, you're learning global English.
Exactly. And exposure is everything. If you're only listening to one accent all the time, you might struggle in real-world conversations. But if you mix it up, watching shows from different countries, following creators from all over, you're building real adaptability.
And speaking of creators, even podcasts and YouTube videos with international hosts are gold. You get to hear phrases, slang, and speech patterns you wouldn't hear elsewhere.
Plus, it keeps things fresh. You're not stuck with the same vocabulary over and over. You might hear someone in Australia say, "heaps good," and then hear "wicked cool" from someone in Boston. Both are great, just different.
And once you're used to that variety, it actually makes you sound more fluent because you can understand and even borrow expressions depending on who you're talking to.
Yep. It's like you're collecting tools for communication, and the more tools you have, the more effective and confident you become.
So, if you're learning English, don't just stick to one accent or region. Explore. Watch a British drama, follow an American influencer, listen to an Australian podcast. It all adds up.
Exactly, because English isn't just one voice. It's a global conversation. And the more varieties you expose yourself to, the more confident, flexible, and fluent you'll become.
That's it from us today. Keep exploring different accents, have fun with the language, and remember, there's no one perfect English. The world speaks it in many amazing ways.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time with more fun ways to boost your English. Keep learning and enjoy the journey.